Exactly 1 year ago, I decided to make a sourdough starter for the first time so I could see if it's really that hard to make bread. I spent 21 days bringing a starter to life, and then I tried making bread twice. But each time I failed. And then, like a seed, I went dormant. But after a year, I was ready to try again and wake my starter up that had been sitting in the fridge for a year. And once I woke it up, I made bread 5 more times, with the end goal of mastering the art and science of sourdough making. Turns out it really is that hard to make bread, but it is possible if you're patient and you don't give up. Well, a lot happened from January 2025 to February 2026, and there's a lot I need to tell you. So let me first start with attempt 1. The first thing I needed to do was bring a sourdough starter to life. I started by adding 2 tablespoons of unbleached flour and spring water into a mason jar. I mixed it up until it had a pancake-like consistency, covered it with a coffee filter to let it breathe and an elastic band to track growth, and for the next 3 weeks, I proceeded to feed it the same amount of flour and water every day so it could finally come to life. I decided to name her Brad because she was not yet bred. I really knew nothing about bringing a sourdough starter to life. All I really knew was that I essentially needed to raise a tiny, hungry pet that was gonna require daily feeding for it to come to life. I wondered how exactly it would come to life because nothing happened for those first 5 days, until I started to see changes happening. On day 7, Brad doubled in size and began to bubble. On day 10, I noticed it smelled different, sweet like fermentation, and there was this dark liquid lying on top called hooch. That's your starter telling you it's active and hungry. And on day 15, Brad exploded, and that's when I decided to try out the float test, which is what was gonna tell me if Brad was ready to become bread. I put a scoop of the starter into a glass of water, and when I saw it float, I knew it was alive and ready to turn into bread. So it was finally time for attempt 1. I mixed all my ingredients together, waited an hour, then kneaded it into a ball and let it rise for 13 hours. When it doubled in size, I did 3 rounds of stretch and folds, then shaped it, scored it, and baked it. At this point in time, I didn't have a Dutch oven or any fancy tools yet. I was convinced I could just make the bread without all of that, and I was really hoping it would work anyway. When the timer went off, I took my bread out of the oven and immediately noticed it wasn't dark on the top at all. But I waited 3 hours for it to cool down and then cut into it. This was the moment of truth, although something inside of me immediately knew something was really off. I rolled my knife down the middle and immediately knew this was not how sourdough bread was supposed to look. And of course I was right because it was dense and it was missing the air bubbles you need in sourdough bread. For the first time making sourdough bread, I felt proud because honestly it didn't look that horrible, but deep down I knew that this was just not it. And as disappointed as I was that I spent 3 weeks bringing a starter to life and another 3 days making actual bread that was a huge fail, I knew I had to try again. And you already know that on this channel it's all trial and error, you know what I mean? So I jumped right into attempt 2. Mixed all my ingredients together, kneaded it into a ball, stretched it a bit, and I noticed right away this dough seemed softer and easier to work with than attempt 1. So we were on track. I let it double in size, did some stretch and folds, and got it into the final dish to get ready to bake. I still didn't have a Dutch oven though, and my dough ended up getting real sticky. So I added oil to the bottom of the dish so it wouldn't stick. Do not recommend this. Honestly, you'll only want to follow exactly what I did to make bread around attempt 4 or 5. But let me hurry up and get there. So I transferred it to the final baking dish, delusional me, clearly thinking it looked real good here, scored it, and baked it. Once it was done, I took it out of the oven, and at this point in time, I really thought this looked good. I let it cool down for a couple hours and then cut into it. It did look like bread, and when I tasted it, honestly, it tasted quite good. So I took it as a win, but still, deep down, I knew that something was off and I needed to figure this out for real. But at this point, making the actual bread took 2 or 3 days, and I didn't really understand how to keep my starter alive. So I put the starter in the fridge. I didn't know it would stay there for a whole year, but truth be told, I was just kind of scared to keep trying because of how difficult it really was for me. I thought it would be so easy to make a starter and then make bread, but it wasn't. So I did tell myself that I would eventually try again, I just didn't know exactly when. And that's when somehow a whole year passed me by. And one day I opened up my fridge and I noticed my starter sitting there in the corner, looking blue. And something clicked in me and I decided that it was finally time to wake it up and try again. And that's when attempt 3 started. And this attempt actually reignited something in me to keep going. Allow me to explain. I thought waking this starter up after 1 year was crazy, but starter is alive and it just needs to be woken up, so although it looked like a sourdough finisher, I tried to see if it was salvageable. And if you think you can smell it, somehow it actually still smelled sweet. When I first opened it, I had a lot of questions. Mainly, is there a difference between letting it sleep and letting it get moldy? Technically, it should just be fermentation. I just know, if this thing could talk, it would say, "Mother, feed me." Well, I removed that top gross layer until I was left with a thick blob. I added water to it, let it sit for 24 hours, and then I was able to mix it all together. Waited another 24 hours, spilled out this hooch, and fed it again for the first time in 1 year. 24 hours later, my starter was actually bubbling again. I figured it needed to be rehoused, so I put it in a new jar with an elastic to track growth and waited until it finally had the right consistency to make bread again. Now here is where you may be thinking respectfully, what the heck? And honestly, me too. Even though I wanted to find out if it could bounce back enough to make bread, the thought of actually making bread from this questionable starter had me itching. But you should know that sourdough starter is a 4,000-year-old method of leavening bread without using store-bought yeast. It's been passed down generations for many hundreds of years. So not only was it just a matter of time before my starter got passed down for generations, but I really thought, why wouldn't waking it up work? With that said, I still decided to make a new starter anyway, so I knew 100% that my bread was safe for consumption and wouldn't poison anyone, you know? And it had already started bubbling by the next day. And if you're confused, allow me to explain that yes, usually you make bread with yeast you buy from the store, but starter is different because when you mix flour with water, it ferments and produces wild yeast. And as you feed it, that homemade yeast grows and bubbles, and that's what makes your bread rise. So starter replaces store-bought yeast with a homemade yeast that is a living organism and is very much alive, like a little pet. So, as I brought this new starter to life, I figured I'd make 1 round of bread with the 1-year-old starter and the rest of the future bread with the new starter. You know, see if it even works anyway, and then toss. After 2 weeks, my new starter was bubbling, but it still wasn't passing the float test and it wasn't ready to make bread yet. So I decided it was time for attempt 3 using the 1-year-old starter. I weighed out all my ingredients, mixed them together, still didn't have any proper equipment or an optimal recipe yet, but I did 4 stretch and folds, let it rise overnight, and in the morning I shaped it. I had a little extra dough, so I made a mini one. And finally, I caved and I got some new equipment.
Very excited because I got a Dutch oven and this thing, the mixer,
which happened to arrive just in time to bake the bread. Scored them, got them in the oven, and soon my bread was actually looking pretty fire. So I let it sit on the counter for 2 hours and then got ready to cut into it.
I might have overcooked it a bit. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I don't know what was going on with the bottom. It was a bit burnt and it didn't feel as squishy as I would have liked. I knew something was wrong.
This is a big moment. I don't know, there's something weird about it. Something's wrong.
But it was still the best loaf I ever made so far, so I was excited. But then the moment of truth finally came to cut into the big one.
I think it's not cooked enough.
2 days of trying to master this art only to fail.
It's really thick.
Was it because I used 1-year-old starter?
Kind of good. It tastes really good, just not like light and fluffy.
All I knew was that although this completely humbled me, like I said before, this also reignited something in me to keep trying. I didn't want to stop until I became a professional bread maker. Plus, I now had all of this new equipment, so giving up wasn't an option.
So let's do this again.
That fire inside was burning and it was not getting extinguished. And that's basically what led me to attempt number 4. The first thing I needed to do was try the float test again with my new starter, but it still wasn't floating.
It's not floating.
And truth be told, I wanted to make this next one with the new starter, but it wasn't
Gotta
ready.
give it a couple more days. In the meantime, I'll keep feeding it.
And I was eager, so I opted for one more loaf with the 1-year-old starter. Now I had all the equipment I needed, but I still needed a recipe that worked for me. So I properly weighed out all my ingredients,
Now we mix.
mixed it up, did 2 rounds of stretch and fold,
Stretch, fold. This thing is really easy to forget about, and I'm not stretch and folding it enough.
and let it rise for 10 hours. Then I shaped it, got it in my basket, put it in the fridge, and in the morning I scored it and got it ready to bake. But when I took it out of the fridge, it was looking real flat to me, and I was getting a bit frustrated because my goal of making proper sourdough was somehow way harder than I thought. But I got it in the
I
oven,
don't know why it's so flat. Timer.
removed the lid after 30 minutes,
I don't know what happened. Not looking good. Your sourdough days are over.
and once it was done, it looked like this, and I knew right away I failed.
You can see
It looks really nice.
until you put it that way.
I don't have high expectations for this.
Even with my Dutch oven and my bread baskets and my scoring knife and my dough mixer, why was it so
I
flat?
can't even cut through that.
I followed a recipe.
I'll let you see first.
Maybe it just wasn't the right one. Maybe I didn't let it rise properly.
Oh God. What's going on here?
I really did start to realize that you gotta get to know your dough
There you have it.
and the stages of it rising rather than just follow a recipe. But this was also where I decided that I'm the one that eats the sourdough, not the other way around, and I really need to get a handle on this process and fast. Well, I cut into it anyway, even worse than my other loaf. Somehow, I made my worst loaf yet. But I refused to quit. The first thing I needed to do was throw this 1-year-old starter in the garbage and get my new starter and try the float test once more. And when it finally floated and passed the test, I had hope again. And that's what led me to attempt 5. The next day, I immediately went at it again. But this time, I had a new recipe that I believed in, and one that would make me 2 loaves at a time. And this was the recipe that would change everything, and the one you can use if you want to attempt this at home too. I weighed out all my ingredients: 200 grams of starter, 700 grams of filtered water, 1,000 grams of flour, and 20 grams of salt. Yes, I speak in grams.
Thank you.
Waited an hour and then did 2 rounds of stretch and folds and 2 rounds of coil folds that were supposed to be every 30 minutes. But I've gotta be honest, I think I did them every hour or 2 instead of every 30 minutes because time just kept passing and it was really hard to be on time with it. But I still felt like the bulk fermentation wasn't finished, and it was already 12 a.m. and time to go to bed, so I just put it in the fridge. And in the morning, I removed the dough, cut it into 2 to try and make the 2 loaves, covered it with baskets for 30 minutes, then shaped them, put them inside the baskets. One of them I added cheese inside. Don't ask why I tried this already without even making a successful one yet, but there's a first time for everything, you know? Here's where I was gonna bake them right away, but then I remembered how flat the last one turned out. So I thought, let's try to get to know the dough better. I figured it needed more time to rise again, so I let it sit there from 9:30 a.m. to about 3 p.m. And when the bread fluffed up more, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna bake it and see what happens. It could turn out flat, but it might not. I preheated my Dutch oven for 30 minutes at 450, took the one with cheese out of the basket, placed it in the oven, then uncovered for another 10 at 425.
Oh my God.
That looks amazing.
I was shocked to see how nice it looked. So while it was finishing up in the oven, I scored the second loaf. And by the end, both loaves were looking like this.
Oh my God. I'm so excited. Scoring was kind of cute.
And after 3 long hours of letting them cool down on the counter, it was time to cut into
2 days later. Feels really good. I'm so scared.
I cut the cheese one first, and for the first time, I felt like I actually succeeded.
I'm pretty happy with that.
Where's the cheese that I added?
Until I saw the burnt
I
bottom.
don't know what's going on with the bottom.
But other than that, it was literally perfect, and it was very edible.
It's really good.
I was so excited that I made a sandwich right away, and then I cut into the second loaf, the plain one. And it was also perfect,
Wow, that's a nice bread.
but also a burnt
I
bottom.
don't know what happened to the bottom.
But I thought to myself, this is progress. I was hyped up and ready to go. And that's when attempt number 6 began. I felt like I finally had a recipe that worked, and so I went right at it. Weighed my ingredients. My least favorite part is mixing it. That mixer stick really needs to be longer. But this time, my dough looked really good. 2 rounds of stretch and folds, 2 coil folds, let it sit for 13 hours, then popped it in the fridge overnight, and in the morning I shaped them, added green olives to one of them, didn't exactly know how to do the inclusions properly, but stitched the dough, let them sit again for a few more hours, then scored it and popped the plain one into my preheated Dutch oven. Removed the lid after 30 minutes.
That's what I'm talking about.
And this loaf was looking amazing until I saw the burnt bottom again. Before I baked the other one though, I brought this one over to my sister, so the olive one sat on my counter while I was gone. I actually like letting it rise again for a few hours after taking it out of the fridge. I find it springs up better in the oven. I realized that I was learning things. If your dough looks deflated, reshape it and then let it rise again for 3 to 5 hours on the counter and it should pop back up. But anyway, I arrived to my sister's. Honestly, I was worried that traveling with it would ruin it, especially in a huge snowstorm like this. But I went to cut open the plain one and it turned out really nice and really fluffy. I felt like it was slightly undercooked, but I was still pretty content with how this turned out. And then when I got home, it was time to bake the olive loaf. I scored it, got it in the oven. It was looking plump.
Oh my gosh.
I wasn't sure why it wasn't so dark on top though.
It's just not so dark on the top.
I realized maybe with inclusions it needs a bit more baking time, but I kept going and then cut into it. I wasn't very happy with the inclusion look, but the overall texture of the bread looked okay. Not my best loaf, but still a good one. So I made another sandy, obviously, and then I heard that if you add rice to the bottom of your Dutch oven, the bottom of your bread won't burn as easily. And I knew that was pretty much the only thing I had left to figure out. And that's basically what led me to my last attempt, and probably my best one yet, number 7. By now, the journey was intense, and I was eating this bread every day, even with the burnt bottoms. So I started making the dough at 9 p.m. But I only had time to stretch and fold it once before going to bed, so I left it overnight. In the morning at 8 a.m., I did 1 more stretch and fold, 2 more coil and folds, and let it rise until 12 p.m. Then I cut it into 2, shaped it, added sun-dried tomatoes to 1 and left the other one plain, popped them in the baskets, and put them in the fridge until 3 p.m. I feel like each time I bake the bread, I do it a little different. As long as you make sure your dough is rising properly and goes through a cold period in the fridge to bring out the flavors and textures, then it can actually be quite forgiving. So at 3 p.m., I took them out of the fridge and let them rise on the counter again until 8 p.m. Then I removed the plain one from the basket. It came out with this Jimmy Neutron thing. Weird. But I went with it, tried scoring a flour, got it in the oven to bake, but I realized I totally forgot to add rice to the Dutch oven, and I messed up the bottom again. Good thing this recipe calls for 2 loaves. So for the next one, the sun-dried tomato one, I added rice to the Dutch oven, finally. But silly me, I forgot to preheat my Dutch oven for 30 minutes before baking, so the top was not looking dark at all.
I forgot to put the oven back on 450, so it's been baking at 425 this whole time.
And it was baking backwards the whole time at 425. Oh man, at least I remembered the rice this time. There really are so many little things to remember to get a perfect loaf. I was really just hoping I didn't mess up the whole thing entirely. But I went with it, and the moment of truth finally came to cut into them. This is how the first loaf turned out, the one with the burnt
Here
bottom.
I have mastered the art of sourdough making.
And this is how the second loaf turned out with the sun-dried tomatoes.
This is so fun. I put rice down and the bottom is way better.
Arguably my best loaf yet. A huge win that I was really happy with. The rice definitely worked, which fired me up, and the taste test was amazing. You can see just how excited I was to finally feel like I was the boss of my sourdough and not the other way around. So I got my starter, fed it again, while thinking to myself what a dang journey this was to get from the first loaf to the last. It really took me 7 tries and 1 whole year, but I think I finally reached my goal of cracking the sourdough code. Of course, you have to confirm that for me, but now I know it really is that hard to make bread, and there is so much more to learn and figure out. And really, the only thing on my mind now is attempt number 8.